Hello, Alan.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
They're waving, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. Saying hi.
Hi.
It's been a crazy week for me.
Yeah.
Good week for you.
Oh yeah. I started painting.
You started painting.
It's a large. It's like a 18 by 36. It's just the beginning though.
Just the start. Oh, you know,
And
your EDO goes up,
on the 23rd, yes.
which is Wednesday.
I know. I'm gonna probably start that later tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
You gonna draw something tonight?
yeah, I'm just sketchy. What is it they say? Stare at the white page.
The white page.
Stare at the white page until your eyes bleed. Is that what?
Are they bleeding? Let me see.
Huh? No, I actually don't do that very often.
There we go. I'll stay still so people can see it.
What's funny is in the past, I guess it's a self-defense mechanism that I tell myself, oh, you know, whatever I'm doing for the live feed, it'll probably just mess up and it, you know, won't turn into anything. But like so far, like 9 times out of 10, whatever I've done on live feed has gone on to become a finished piece.
That's
Probably because I take the stress of it off, though. You know, it's like and just say it's okay to mess it up or not. You know.
Yes. Jezariah was asking what the last painting with the flaming horns was called. It doesn't have any flaming horns anymore, though.
Which that.
It's up in the
Yeah.
living room right now. No, we don't have a name for it.
I don't have
yet.
a name for it yet. The narrative.
The narrative isn't made for it yet, so.
Yeah. And the flaming part of it is gone.
Yes.
Um,
Don't ever get too attached to
here,
things.
I'll bring it in. You can see
Okay.
it. Just, you can. I'll show you what it looks like so far.
Yes, he will still. Someone asked if he still uses references. So anything that needs a reference
Anything that has realism in it.
will be used as a reference. And so the hands were reference, right?
Oh yeah, the hands are my hands, and everything else is just kind of it's created in the drawing. And I got to a certain point, and it seemed like the horn arc that was across the top was it wasn't. I don't know. It just didn't seem to work out. The element was attracting attention in my eye in the wrong way, and so I painted it out, and now it's sitting on the mantle as it is, and I walk by it every day and think about it. And between now and whenever it's going to be finished, the resolution will occur to me.
What's going to happen with it? I think the dog wants it.
Yeah,
I'll get him.
I'm
You
not-
get him.
Yeah. He's going to walk back in and like.
Yes, he's going to beat on the door. I'm sorry, I cannot translate from Spanish unless they're all. They might be having a conversation on there.
Okay.
So I apologize. I'm
Anybody is
not bilingual. Yes.
You know, if they can.
Where did you get your drafting table? Someone else.
This, believe it or not, I saw a person online who makes reproductions of 1920s industrial drafting tables, and
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
contacted them and said, "Will you give me a discount on it if I take one of them to Comic-Con and display it?" And they went one better, and they gave me a table for taking it and showing it at Comic-Con, and that was a really good year because that was also the year that Del Toro came by the booth, and he actually ended up buying a custom-made version of this that was like $5,000. But this is called a Centurion, and I don't even know if they make them anymore. If the woman's still doing it, but
Right.
she has. She used to have a website. They're like, I wouldn't have been able to buy it if it hadn't worked out the way it was because
Right.
it's so expensive. But there's a lot of like that one is an actual antique, the pedestal.
Yeah, that's the one you got for a deal.
I got because the woman accidentally put on the thing that was pickup only, so nobody bid on it because it was in the middle of Ohio, and so
Absolutely.
I bought it and went. It was like 20 minutes from our house.
Yep.
You know, we got it.
Yep.
So,
Justy B says one of his favorite parts of Saturday nights.
oh, that's amazingly kind. Thank you.
Get ready. I have too many questions for you.
All right. But,
King Jabroni asks or says, "Fire away." We probably won't be able to get to all of them. Maybe.
So, but yeah, as far as the table goes, I think the base model table of the Centurions were it was like $3,500. It was ridiculously
Yeah,
expensive.
it's awesome though. It's beautiful.
They're beautiful, and you know, obviously, it's something if you're you know, if you're into it, that you'd like having. It's sort of this weird combination of being like a really nice desk but it's got to be a working table too. And I don't know that if I had paid that much for it, if I would be able to work on it.
Oh yeah.
You know, because I'd be afraid.
And I apologize that I cannot translate from Spanish if someone would like to, or so. But I will answer any questions if I can read them.
Sometimes people will translate for us.
Sometimes I will.
So, I've just been working on pieces for my solo show here recently.
Correct. Yes.
That's coming up in August 11th, I think. Mm-hmm. With Copro Gallery in Santa Monica. So if any of you guys are in California, maybe you'll come by and say hi.
August 11th, you'll be there.
Yeah.
Do you have any originals or prints for sale? Yes, we do. As has been for a while. The most of the pieces you see on our feed in Instagram are available, and most of them are available with prints, but you'll have to email me. You can see them at Alan Williams Studio, and then you can just email me.
That's alanwilliamsstudio.com.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, alanwilliamsstudio.com.
Well, sometimes you don't. Some people forget that part of it.
Yes. Oh, they're asking you to draw a Spanish dinosaur. Thank you, Sculptastic.
I did not know.
A Spanish dinosaur or a dinosaur in Spanish? I'm not sure, but thank you for translating.
You know what? That's remarkably timely because my kid's in the couch right now studying Spanish, but I don't think he's at a level yet where he can translate.
That is no. Ram Carr asked if you ever been frustrated with the final piece and how so you work with it.
Oh yeah, I have, and I either do one of two things: either I go back and I paint it out, or I destroy it and start over. So I mean, it happens. Like you know. Not all the time, less frequently now than it used to.
Yeah.
But there are periods where I'll go through false starts, or I'll just be too impatient to start, like working on something and not have thought my way through it very much. So I was thinking about this the other night, and this kind of relates to that.
Oh, wait. Everybody pause.
Yeah.
The dog thumped the back door. Sorry. Come through, Sorry, everybody.
I was thinking the other night.
Yes.
About the whole.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Hold on.
Yes. What were you thinking about?
Well, I was thinking about because there are people that talk about doing multiple iterations of a piece before you start it.
Yes.
And I realized that one of the things. Where you at?
He's going. Sorry.
That's all right.
He's being a pain. Sorry, you guys.
I realized that referring to the multiple iterations or sketching of it, that
Yes.
one of the things that I think I do rather than doing multiple iterations of the drawing is that I'll just take a lot longer at the beginning figuring things out. And so I'm iterating, like I'm thinking through it in my head, going, I'll sit there and go, no, I'm seeing that, or this does not work, and I'm iterating it, I guess you could say mentally, rather than physically drawing thumbnails of everything, because I was curious because I tend to get to a point where I kind of have an idea and then I know what I'm doing. Sometimes, rarely, like I said, I'll have a false start. I'd say it's like 1 out of 20, something like that.
Yeah.
And it depends on like my mood. Sometimes it goes up a little bit and sometimes down. But the thing is,
A lot of times it'll just sit.
Right.
And you'll wait until.
And I'll stare at it for a long time.
If you get all the way out. Like this last one, I mean, you're not quite done with him.
No.
But it might just.
Oh, that?
Yes.
Well, I don't even. Yeah, that actually might change entirely tonight. I don't know. Not tonight. I'm probably going to work on EDO tonight, but it might. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We were looking at the back of your hand.
But.
Sorry, I was
when
flipping I was flipping the camera around, you guys. The dog, he followed me around for the last 30 minutes and would not go outside, so I waited until...
When you're doing your own work, your personal work, I'm not sure... It's really strange. When I do concept work for film, it's not so much that I think all of these ideas that I'm throwing out are good, but that the production manager needs to see them to make their own decisions rather than have me make them mentally for them.
Right.
Even that being said, there are people that still do concept work that I see get like for instance, like Carlos Swante or Wayne, Barlow, these guys who've been doing it for a while. Most of what comes out of their head is not going to be like the first 20 ideas that everybody else has. You know what I mean? Whereas when you first start doing concept stuff, the first few ideas you have are probably going to be similar to the first few ideas everybody has, and you got to get past it.
You told me that in college.
Yeah, and I tend to do a lot of that in my head though. When I do my own work, I don't iterate so much or make sketches, which can lead to false starts. But I kind of trust myself to be able to fight my way through it.
Rhonda to the Honda asked, how old were you? Or R to the Honda asked, how old were you when you started drawing?
Professionally, it was in 1988, so it was like around 19 or 20. But I've been drawing my entire life.
And have you ever felt tired of what you draw? Someone else asked.
I get tired of myself sometimes, because I work on, if you tend to work on your own work all the time, sometimes you'll start to restate things that you've already stated in other pieces.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I watch for, and that's why I have such a problem sometimes doing series work, because I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and that's not what you
visually.
want.
And I try to do something. I want the pieces to be distinctive and not be just tailored to capitalize on a previous success, if that makes sense. So I do get tired of my own thought process sometimes, but I do that almost in every piece.
Yeah.
So the first like a day or so of working on something is like I said, is me basically dwelling on it and going through the process of getting my head straight. And
Anne Jewett asked, do you ever solve problems during naps or while sleeping?
I solved the problem of being tired when I take a nap.
No, you work.
But I know what you mean. I've woken up with a fresh perspective. I've never woken with a eureka type answer though. Other people have, and I know that it happens. But when I sleep, I tend to. I don't really. It hasn't happened. Maybe it has in the past, a long time ago, but not in a way that I could say that happens to me a lot.
Don't you? But you'll also take those. He takes these power. I don't even know if they're fully naps.
No, I call it going twilight, which is no affiliation with the vampire series.
Right.
But what I'll do is I'll just lay across the bed and just sort of let my mind zone out. I don't really go to sleep. I just sort of go into that moment of semi-consciousness and then wake myself up, and then I get up and I feel like my thought processes are clear.
Yes. What do you do? What do you do when you don't know what to draw?
What I'm doing right now.
You draw.
I sit down and I start making abstract shapes and playing with form in order and seeing if I can find something in the chaos.
Right.
And
which are kind of that kind of also deals with creative blocks.
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah, and that's how I usually my creative blocks tend to happen because I have a lot of things that I'm waiting to work on, and I don't really value one idea over another in my own work very much. It's like I want to do all of these things, and none of them seem like they're urgent in the way that this one should be first. I want to do them all, so to speak. So that's kind of where I get to a point where I'm stalled because I can't make a decision. But when I feel like I sit down and I'm like my brain is not in the right space to draw, the most important thing I do is I just let my hand do it, and then I start finding whether shapes end up. See, and this is another thing that you have to watch out for when we're talking about getting bored with yourself, because you tend to repeat the same shapes a lot. If you notice and that's part of finding your style, is that there's a sort of way you approach shape hierarchy that is distinctive to you, and that's basically how you define your aesthetic. Mm-hmm. and color. There are things that you do specifically as a habit that define your style.
Right.
And so sometimes it's not so much that I'm bored with the way that I'm doing things, but the content, the subject matter. Like recently I started thinking about, I do a lot of things that are in the same kind of scale. And I want to start messing with the scale of things in a piece, like zoom in closer on hands and faces, or further back with more dimensional landscape, or more dimensional space.
Right. There's questions flying by here.
Yeah.
Termite 427 asked, have you ever created something and thought it was awesome, and then the next day looked at it and thought that's not what you were going for and started over or reworked it?
Yeah, that happens.
It kind of was the earlier question.
Very nearly every single time I start something,
or end something, and then you go, that no.
Well, the first 2 or 3 days, when I'm just, especially when I'm working on personal work that is going to be of significant size, I usually spend about 2 days in a bad mood because I'm going through what you're talking about.
Oh my God, that's right.
And it's not directed at anybody. I just walk around very quiet and sullen in a way, in my own world, because
Not necessarily cranky.
I'm not really cranky. No, I'm just like in my own space, in my head, trying to figure things out.
If it goes past 2 days, then I kind of go, hey.
Yeah,
hey.
well, and we agreed together that I, this kind of thing, you got 72 hours to work through that kind of thing, and then you just start with something to get you out of it. And
over almost 30 years, we came to that agreement.
Yeah. It actually tends to fall along the lines of how long it actually takes me sometimes to get through that. But and I almost feel like it's part of my process. I mean, it kind of is part of my process now. That with a small piece, it doesn't last as long, but it's proportional. If I'm going to work on a piece for a day, I'll spend 3 hours, like deliberating over it, going back and forth, looking at inspiration, playing with, sketching little things, or fidgeting with the crap on my desk or whatever, until my mind gets in the right space for it.
Yeah. What do you think about a mechanical pencil versus the quality graphite pencil?
I think I use them both, and it's because I kind of find them that they both have, in terms of quality, the graphite pencils, you can draw more from the side of the lead, and you get more of a broad area to draw from, whereas with the technical pencils, and even these smaller mechanical ones like these, this is, I guess, a 0.9, I think. No, yeah, it's a 0.9, which I sharpen, which I was telling you guys about this last week. This is a Gedge sharpener. And you can actually sharpen these 0.9 if you need to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But I find that they're suited. Like if I just were going to work on noodly detail, I would use this because there's no reason to sharpen an entire pencil to get to that point on the lead, right? So efficiency wise, it's just you only need, if you're just doing little noodly details, then you can use the smaller mechanical pencils. You can do the whole thing with a mechanical pencil if that's if it suits your nature better. Whereas, I know Ian McKay only likes to use wooden pencils because it's a feel of like a natural feel in his hand.
So there's two questions that kind of relate.
Yeah.
What do you look for in other people's art? What wows you? And then someone else asked, what did you think about Kim Jung-ji's art?
He's a different creature. But what do I look for in other people's art? I tend to find a lot of people who have pieces that I like. It's rare for me to find somebody that I like everything that they do. I think probably everybody's like that. I have people like, Beksinski and Waterhouse and Tadema.
Someone asked about the pieces on your iPad. And what do you look for in you're using those, and how are you using those?
What I look for in these things are essentially a level of execution. And it's not so much that I need to emulate the exact way that anybody does anything, but I look at and see at the level at which they executed the elements of and you can see that these guys, and there's some photography in here too, but you can see that there's a certain level of control, I guess you could say, or certain level of being able to handle being out of control,
Yeah.
But in terms of Kim Jung-ji, I love watching. He's sort of like the combination of a regular traditional artist and a performance artist at the same time, because like a lot of what he does that's so spectacular to watch is just that spontaneous generation of a landscape of a world.
He's like
and the thing is, it's like
all in his brain, and it just pops out.
The unusual part about him is that he can do he does, and if you notice, he tends to do most of those drawings. They're sort of in a kind of a fisheye, kind of a warped perspective, and he just makes it all. I think that aids in the fact that you can put all these elements in one place, and it doesn't have to be perfectly in perspective, but it's such a believable perspective that it works. And I think it's just like a unique talent. It's an individual talent. It's something. I don't know if I hesitate to say anybody's born with such a skill.
No, because that diminishes the hard work that they put into it.
Because you're not really born with any of this. It's
Kim Jung-ji, G-I, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've met him before, and he's a really nice guy too.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah, he's just such a nice, a sweet, humble guy, and it's just that that I feel like that he must always draw like that, so that's the way. It doesn't seem unnatural for him to sit down and just spontaneously create an environment, which, there are comic book guys that do that on a daily basis, but not visibly in the public. You know what I mean? So, because there's a lot of comic books that are basically, and everything he does is stylized.
Yes.
But he has those visual elements there that lend credence to the fact that he must be constantly observing reality, even though it seems like he's always drawing. There has to be a time when he's looking at all this stuff at some point to be able to know that it exists, even. But yeah, no, he's. I think it's pretty brilliant in that respect. And he, like I said, he's a nice guy. I met him at Comic-Con a couple of years back. But I
a couple of years
yeah.
in a row at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And,
we traded some books, which was fun.
You did trade some books. We got his books.
So
can someone, Costas asks, can someone succeed in art by just attending private lessons and putting a lot of personal effort in, but not completing fine art school?
I didn't complete fine art school. So I don't actually.
Yeah.
I know a few people that did complete, went through fine art school. You can do it. It's all based on your own ability to teach yourself what you need to learn, and by that I mean to find the specific topics and research them. When I say teach myself, I don't mean that there's no one else involved. I mean that I'm the steward of my own education, so to speak. I look at what I want to learn, and I find a way to, I find the information, even before, and this is, this will cue you into how old. Even before the internet, I would research how people, would buy all the magazines.
We have shitloads of books.
Well, I had, it used to be step-by-step graphics would have these incredible, they had Drew Struzan's articles about his technical process.
Yeah, but what was the giant, huge, annual...
Oh, the black book, the Illustrator's black book thing that came out, the showcase or whatever?
The showcase, yeah. Illustrator showcase that was...
And I would buy those, and mostly I would look at what people did, and just a lot of times I would just try to figure it out, and I made a lot of my own mistakes. But what was interesting was I came to a lot of conclusions that later, as I did start to find people that would share information, and as the internet developed and we could actually ask each other questions, I found out a lot of the conclusions I came to that took me so long to come to were things that were actually taught, which is it's a good feeling to feel like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit better that I sort of discovered some of this stuff on my own. Right. Not like I discovered perspective, because as you can tell from most of my work, I avoid it like the plague. But
Mind at Large says that they're finding so many great artists through you, and thanks.
Oh, you're very
great
welcome.
Taste.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. There's a lot of stuff to look at out there, and it's. It can, obviously it can be daunting to see so much great work, but the one thing you just always have to keep in your mind is that people show you their successes,
right?
And if you happen to see the times when they've struggled or stumbled with something, that's an insight that not everybody gets to see all the time,
right?
But they are definitely, when you see everybody's work, you're looking at the best pieces that they produced usually. Even with the old masters especially. The stuff that they did that probably they didn't like was most likely destroyed or painted painted over. So you don't really, you never get to see that unifying struggle.
Yeah, so try not to get too frustrated at looking at all these great artists online and this and that, and I'm like, well. So
one of the things that I did was I went to the Illustrators Masterclass in Amherst. Rebecca Gay, turns that out every year, and there are all the teachers there are leaders in the illustration field, book cover artists, and there are fine artists there too. And it's a place where you can go, and I would say that I would advise you at some point to go and work with other people so that you can de-romanticize the process to yourself.
Right.
So you can see somebody that's doing a $3,000 or $5,000 book cover, screw it up, wipe it off, and start over again, because that's how they work too.
Right. Greg Manches.
All of them.
Who else have you met?
Donato will sit there and labor over an area, and it's not working, and he'll wipe it off, with a rag, and start over on it again. But
it's funny. At which point have you? At which point have you learned enough to be satisfied with your work? I've
said this before. My great secret, it's like the Bruce Banner thing. My great secret is that I'm always dissatisfied. I'm always frustrated with what I do. I have moments where things work, and passages of things that I like, but I don't expect that to last forever, because I feel like as an artist, you need to like it enough to be able to go on to the next piece.
And then dislike it enough.
And then dislike it enough to not rest on your success with it.
Right.
You know.
How?
So what I do is I get it to a point where I feel like I've accomplished some things in it that maybe I didn't know how to do before, or that I've never done before, and then let it stand, and then move on and keep going. You know.
Yeah.
So
someone asked how long time average does it take for a drawing, which I think we've said before, anywhere from some pieces can be a day and other ones can be 2 weeks.
Yeah, the longest I've ever taken on a single drawing was probably about a month, which was a larger piece.
Right.
But I would say, yeah, it's anywhere from, a couple hours to usually 2 weeks now. Not longer than 2 weeks for a drawing usually, because of the
and that includes the
and that includes the deliberation time.
the deliberation time.
Or the art. I don't know if you want to call it like the artist tantrum that I go through, where I'm just sitting there, dwelling on my own head, in my own head, trying to figure things out. But
How, and Rimcar asked this before, how do you define your art style?
how do I actually it's interesting is that I don't
Contemporary art.
I don't really try to define it though into a genre type thing, because I feel like other people are going to do that no matter what I do, and they're going to do it based on what they want it to be in. And if I would say, because I don't really, I mean, I get qualified, I guess, a lot in dark art, but a lot of the topic, the subject matter that I project into the work that I do, the content isn't really as dark as most people think it is. It's more of a contemplative. It's a contemplation of like the mortal construct is the way I put it. But there's not really a category that I would say it fits exclusively.
Hand me a pencil over there. I have to write that down. I'll never be able to remember it, and I won't remember where it is in here. Contemplation of a mortal construct.
Yeah, because a lot of times that's what people are doing when they're painting or drawing skeletons or things that look like deceased body. It's the mortal construct. It's the structure of life that underlays everything else, right? To me, that's what a skull is. It is a. When somebody draws a skull, I mean, their intention in some places and sometimes is to create something that's horror driven. But to me, I look at it and I just see structure that underlies life. I don't see, it's like it doesn't look horrifying to me.
Right.
At all. Yeah.
Costa says, thank you very much for your tips and being very helpful.
Oh, thank you. I try. Sometimes I ramble and have to circle the answer before I figure it out. Yeah. And I appreciate all the patience people have with that. So, because a lot of times you guys ask questions and I just never vocalized the answer to myself in words,
right.
And I have to think about what I do, which is good because, I mean, I'd like to be able to, share more with people, and this helps me do it.
Right. Seven Joan Jewel says it's kind of the way they are with jewelry making.
Yeah.
Don't love the piece or you love it, and then others I'm like, wow, I don't know. But then others, I love the piece that I don't like. Other people like the piece that they don't like.
That happens all the time, though.
Yes.
That's just because, I mean, the thing is, we all come from different experiences, right? So I've had these guys walk in that are like these big, like rough, tough, like UFC fighting guys that will buy a piece. And then 2 minutes later, a little old lady who's like 70 years old walked into my booth and bought the same piece.
Yes.
And they're both seeing something completely different in it because their experiences are different. Mm-hmm. And my kids asked me about this once, and I said, well, I kind of used this, like, I guess it's a traumatic example. I said, if you lived in a house where every time you set your cup down on a doily and messed it up, somebody yelled at you, then you would associate those doilies with a negative experience. But if you lived in a house where your grandmother brought cookies out and set them down on these beautiful doilies, and you associated them with a pleasant experience, when you see that, it's going to give you a pleasant, feeling. And I mean, and everybody's life is like that.
Yes.
I mean, that's the reason, why you have two people who grow up side by side and have similar experiences.
Different experience.
But they end up turning into completely different people.
A couple of people have asked why you don't go digital. He does do digital.
I do digital when I do production stuff, and when it has to be done very fast. I have a Cintiq. It's right there. I have
use ZBrush. Yes, he uses ZBrush.
Yeah, I just actually sculpted a maquette for myself in ZBrush and had it printed recently. So I have nothing against digital, and I think it's wonderful. It's just whatever you feel your nature is. If your nature is that if you like digital to work in it primarily, then don't let anybody tell you you shouldn't. Just do what's of your nature.
Someone said, "Hi, camera person and Mr. Artist."
That's fun.
That's Alan. I'm Vicky. Oh, and you can find his work at alanwilliamstudio.com. The website is up, but the shopping cart is down. So if you like a piece, email me, and I will get it out to you. We can work on it.
We've actually been getting more orders since our shopping cart went down than we did when it was up.
We won't talk about that. But that is Alan Williams Studio, and also our YouTube channel. Wait, we're like behind in questions. There's like all these good questions, and we're not going to get to them all today. But our website is Alan Williams Studio. Our YouTube channel is Alan Williams Studio, and our Patreon is patreon.com/Alan Williams. And so that's that. Yes.
So what I was saying is that when I don't have a plan, but I do want to, I want to sit down and draw, this is kind of what I do. And I've done like these kind of Florentine or at least floral, Baroque, Nouveau-ish kind of design motifs before. But this is what I was talking about when you sit down and you just start randomly drawing. You'll repeat some of the same shapes. And then what I'll end up doing is figuring out how to break its similarity or use it in a way that I haven't used it before. Or I may not use this at all. Because if I have to say that way I can actually surprise myself. Or let go of any of it.
It sits around in your brain.
Yeah.
Seven Jones says, your words are as beautiful as your art.
Oh, well, that's very kind. That's very kind. But
someone asked, they can never draw eyes to be the same size. What did you suggest?
I would suggest if you draw an eye on one side, I mean, there's the obvious labor of physically making yourself measure it out, right, and doing it over and over again and doing it a lot.
Yeah, because you can measure.
Or you can always, you can draw one eye, trace it and flip it, and then position it, and then transfer it to the board.
So it's not perfectly
I
symmetrical.
mean, you do there are things you do to gain knowledge and practice, and then things you do for performance, right? So if you have to get something done, do what it takes to get it done, whether that's sketching it and then flipping it and tracing it or whatever. But if you want to learn how to do it, and if you have the time, do it that way. Sit down and just go through the labor of drawing the eye.
Yeah,
but don't feel bad if you have to do it one way or the other. There aren't really any
correct ways
rules
of
to
doing
break in art. There's just ways that people work and ways that they don't, right?
Yes.
So if you need to sit down and trace an eye that you did on one side and bring it to the other side, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just depending on what you want from it.
Yes.
Someone
asked if our kids draw. Actually, Maeve just
my daughter Maeve just
draws. Our son writes.
Right. Our son he writes stories. Maeve just won for Mississippi won the Doodle for Google competition for Mississippi and has gone on to the finals. We'll see if she gets into the actual 5 finalist category, but that was just recently.
So she draws, but Duncan writes.
Yeah.
He likes to write.
Duncan likes to write. He likes to do crossovers and fan fictions with all these different animations and series that he's into. Mm-hmm. And plus he's into making his own creations, his own stories.
Swap Illustrated, could you please suggest some websites where you get beautiful reference and quality artwork to learn from? You can go to Pinterest. Alan's, what's your name of your thing?
The one that's public is Where My Eyes Linger on Pinterest.
Yeah, so go to Alan's Pinterest, which is I Just Draw.
I believe so. It might be under Alan Williams.
No, it's I Just Draw.
Is it I Just Draw? But Pinterest has a lot of curated art that you can find, which is cool. I know people always associate it with scrapbooking and stuff, and there's that there too.
Oh, that's Pinterest right there. Right?
Yeah, this is Pinterest. This is my Pinterest page. One of them. One of my.
He collects just to look and inspire himself.
Yeah. See, this stuff I just like to look at it. And if I'm going along and I'm working, I'm going, oh, you know what? This pattern sort of reminds me of this, and it would be kind of cool if I did this pattern and hollowed out the background and had the actual image behind all this and made a frame or whatever. That's how it works. That's how it works with me, though.
Yes.
And then I have friends like Forrest, who's on there, and there's figure stuff as well. Just little bits and pieces of stuff that I like to look at. And
your question about someone asked, how do you suggest selling art online?
Well, that is okay. There's a big thing about where people talk about, what is the way to do that, and the painful answer is that we all have different products, and there's a general way to sell products online, but it's not going to be specific until you figure it out for yours.
Right. Because it used to be that people loved looking at the process shots of you working on pieces, whereas now people like to see your finished. I can do maybe two of those process shots up, and then the finish, and
on Instagram specifically.
Yes.
It used to be that they wanted to see works in progress more, but now it's finished.
And you asked that question: are you talking about shopping carts? Are you talking about websites? Are you talking about I sell stuff through Facebook forum.
There's a quick answer to sell things is you can put up a card on Etsy, put up a card on any of the different sites.
Etsy is a really good one. People, but then you have to also
promote it,
and then it's, you can't. It's a marathon. It is not it's not a sprint. It's just going to take a while if you don't have a lot of people following you. Just give them time to find you.
And the big thing that I like to tell people when they talk about this thing is remember that nothing works the same way forever. No matter how good one site is, eventually it'll start to change. It's just that's the nature. It's okay.
It's
the nature of the internet.
Can't get pissed off.
Yeah, you just have to figure out how to.
You're getting it for free. Right. They're going to eventually try to monetize.
Well, yeah, like Facebook. People get upset because Facebook changes algorithms or whatever. But the thing is they got this huge business to maintain.
Yeah.
It's like they've got to do something, and I get to use it for free basically. And if I want to use it for free, I find workarounds. I found ways of promoting my stuff where I don't have to pay for it. Right. We're getting a lot of free publicity. Of free PR through different medias.
Right.
And the thing is it when they change it, you figure out how to work with it,
like
or you figure out something new to do.
It's an ocean, and you've got to figure out how to surf the ocean, ride the waves, and try to be on.
It's not like I'm not saying that you have to be like a slave to fad, but you do have to pay attention to trends, and if people suddenly stopped, coming to Instagram, then it wouldn't make any sense to keep doing what I'm doing here, and so I'd have to be willing and able to adapt.
Right.
And that's the number one drawback that I see is even I see it in a lot of older artists, but especially there are people even younger than me that resist getting involved in social media.
I know.
But it's such an easy access to people and to talk and communicate about the work
from across the world
that I don't. It's the resistance that gets in their way, because once you get over that, the fact that you have to do it. Because you don't have to do it. You can always. I know a lot of people who only sell locally, but once they start realizing that there's a global world, that the world is
all these people that could love, right? Yeah. That could love not your art, but this person's art and that person's art, and
not to mention the fact that like we get to share art techniques with people that are all halfway across the world from us.
Yes.
And that's to me is invaluable.
I know it can be frustrating, but you just have to.
Don't let yourself be frustrated. And when you say, I'm going to give myself enough time to do this, remember that means you're going to take enough time to do it, which I know that sounds weird, but giving yourself time means you're going to do it no matter what time it takes.
Right.
So you let yourself, like Vicky said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You don't throw stuff up and expect.
And then you go, I've changed the way I do it. Why don't I have about 400 people looking at this?
Right.
Well, because it doesn't change overnight.
Right. It takes a while to change to find your new fans for a new technique or a new style.
Yes. I kind of like the way that's going.
Well, and there's an idea behind it somewhere. I can see it, but I just haven't crystallized it yet.
Alan's EDO is on the 23rd.
Yeah.
Hint.
Oh.
I'm hinting to him because he has yet to start it.
Right.
Hey, that's my little tiny pot up there.
What?
That my mom bought me. You stole
No, that's mine. She brought that. She gave it to me. Yeah.
No, it's mine.
No,
you hold the pencil like painters do.
Oh, well.
Just drawing.
Well, you know what? That's.
He wants to know why.
Okay, I think I might have mentioned this last
No, but why
episode.
do you like drawing?
But I like drawing with the side of the pencil because it brings out the tooth of the paper.
No.
If you draw with the point, you're basically digging in and filling in the tooth a lot more. and you also burnish the paper more. When you draw with the side of it, you get to see a lot more of this texture, and then there's a lot more found shapes and forms to work with. And the reason I do is because, like last week, I saw somebody do it on a TV show.
Heroes.
It was like the show Heroes, where there was this guy that could draw the future, and he made a comic book, and he would sit down and draw very quickly like this. And I'd never done it before, and I started to do it, and I actually kind of I liked it a lot. So.
Oh, is this Mabes?
Huh?
That's
those are Mabes, yeah. She's been like into Bill
is that
Cipher.
Gravity Falls?
Bill Cipher, yeah.
Who's the evil guy above him with the fez hat?
I don't know.
The
She just made him up. But
I will update. Yeah, I should. I hope to get to the opportunity to meet you in person someday in the future.
Oh,
Such an inspiration.
anytime.
You're
That would be
inspiring
great.
people,
That
and they're
would be-
thanking you when you answer questions.
oh, you're very, very welcome. And Vicky just put up. What was the video you just put up? I think I was talking about that on Patreon. Did you put that one up, or was it the one where I was
no,
drawing
that's
on the
a-
plane?
No, this one where I can't remember what I just put up. I don't remember.
I have a video recently of drawing when a plane's taking off, which was actually kind of
No,
fun.
I haven't got the plane one up. It's the other one that went up, or not. I can't remember.
But
Everything's scheduled. Rachel says that she saw you work at Copro, and oh man, did it blow my mind. Pictures don't do your stuff justice.
oh well, thank you very much. That makes me happy because that's one of the hardest things about selling online or showing people work online is that this stuff there's about, I would say, 30% of the experience is lost from what you see in person, just because
you just can't.
Yeah. But that's the nature of traditional work in general. Whereas digital work, what you run into are different color correction and gamma corrections on different computers.
Yes.
Whereas traditional work, it just it always looks it always, if you like it digitally, you'll love it, I think, in person when you see it. Like Palancar's work, John Jude Palancar.
Oh yeah.
You cannot.
Take a look
Nothing
at
printed
John
does it
Jude
justice.
Palancar.
Yeah, he's a book cover artist.
Palencar.
And he has a very ethereal style. But when you look at his work in person, he works in acrylic, but it looks like oil. But there's a cross hatching technique that he builds noise into the solid areas of the piece and into that. It's just beautiful. It's like looking at an etching in a way when you look at them in person.
Anti-Sleep says, how do you learn to draw these ornate patterns? Mine don't flow.
You know what?
I think it plops out of his brain. I don't think he learns it.
I look at them a lot though. I study shapes and I see things and all these things that I look at, they go into that vocabulary you have in your mind. Just like earlier we were looking at those like these.
It's not, but it's like copying something.
It's not. It's allowing it to transform it. It's not appropriation. It's transformation.
Ah, yes, that's what it is. It's not appropriation. It's transformation.
Study if you want to look at like flowing organic shapes. Go and look at Art Nouveau quite a bit. Obviously, I used to be and still am.
Costumes too. Right?
Costumes.
You look at like clothing and.
Muka, who is does just beautiful line no matter
They say thank you for the live stream.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm a huge fan of Alphonse Muka because of that Nouveau technique of working.
Yeah, but if anyone saw your work, they wouldn't immediately, or some people wouldn't.
Well, I mean, if you
Muka.
know Muka's work, you can sometimes recognize a little bit of that aesthetic influence.
Yes.
Just like there's also Giger and Beksinski, and even to a small degree like Waterhouse and those guys who have those really beautiful text. I mean, that's what I aim at. Whether I succeed or not, that's people can talk about that when I'm not around. Yeah. But you look at all those things and they.
Barbara's here. Say hi, Barbara.
Hi, Barbara. But yeah, it happens to me too because it's always that you see and you want to create a beautiful series, a rhythm, a harmony in the shapes, even if it's something like relatively what most people would think of as grotesque. I like there to be a sense of beauty to it, and it takes sometimes a while to get to it, and sometimes I go back and draw over it quite a bit. The answer to his question is I labor over it, and sometimes if it's not working, I start again, and I guess you could say I just keep at it until it sort of accidentally falls in the right space.
You've always had a very good sense of space in your pieces, though, or the negative space. What's happening between?
Well,
I'm not using the right word.
I know.
don't know.
Well, I mean,
That's me. I'm not having
because anything that has to do with design is not just about designing the shape, but the space around it as well.
Right.
Right. So the negative shape has to be as appealing as the positive shape, especially with like anything that's going to have any sort of harmony to it. It's a compositional thing. Most of the time in school, they'll tell you that your negative space is probably. I mean, I can't say that it's not exactly equal. It's exactly equal to the positive space in terms of design.
See when you look at that, just those architecture. I mean, it's
right.
Not about what's exactly going on, but what's not going on in the other parts.
What I don't do that is taught quite a bit, and I think this is because of the prevalence of industrial design and film, is I don't do a lot of silhouette iteration. But strangely, I've never been asked for it. When I've been doing concept stuff for film, nobody's ever asked me for silhouettes. Now, what they want is a strong silhouette or, a clean silhouette so that they can see it. But I don't iterate in terms of just creating weird looking or interesting silhouettes to compose with. I sort of just, I don't know, I do a lot of it in my head. I can see it in my head, so if I don't like it in my head, I don't put it on the paper.
Right. Someone asked, do you possibly have any pricing advice for relatively new pencil artists? That's all. This is what you were talking about earlier when it's not, our pricing isn't going to work for the next person or the next person. You have to, some painters go by size, some by hours. She was looking at she is looking at a guide for pencil or graphite.
Well, the thing is that
I personally don't think you ever get paid enough for your graphite work because it takes longer than your painting. But but we have a kind of how we.
So Vicky created sort of a system of a price by area, which works
by size, sort of.
Yeah, which sort of works. But sometimes, I'll have a piece that's smaller that I feel like is more powerful and probably should be priced more or less than another piece that was maybe bigger that I didn't feel like worked as well. So in terms of that, you always have the freedom to go up or down. There's no hard and fast rule. But
and then you kind of we also see your audience. You have to kind of figure out what people will pay for it.
So you what you have to do is what do you think it's worth, and test your market of the audience of the people that you have.
Right.
So for me to say a number doesn't mean anything. What it means is you put the piece out there at the price that you like, that you think it's worth. And I know that's hard because you look at it and you go, I don't know what it should be worth, but you think this is how you make your living, right?
Or is it how you make your living, or is it what you're doing on the side now so that you can eventually get to it?
Right.
You know what I mean? Or can you
sell
it for $25 or $2,500?
Obviously, we charged less for pieces when I was starting out than we do now sometimes, but the thing is that I know some artists who out of the gate, I know an artist who started and within this first year, he was charging a huge amounts of money for his work. I don't know if he got it. I know that he started charging it though, but that's what he wanted the perception of value to be at, and that is important in the larger art market. It is the perception of value. So if you want to be in the realm of those guys who make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, then you start your work priced accordingly. I would research people who work in if you're lucky enough that nobody's work looks like yours. I mean, then charge whatever you want. But if you can find somebody whose work kind of is in the same vein of what you do, look at somebody who's gone before you and just see what their prices are, and if they've been around, how long they've been around, and what that is.
Barbara says there's a stigma attached to graphite work, and it's not on par with something painted in oil. Yeah, but
we used to call it the gray ceiling.
The gray ceiling, yes. Yeah. I mean, because he can charge more for his paintings, and sometimes his paintings go faster. But I keep pushing that up and see how much I can charge for him and everything.
Right. And to be honest, you guys must know this by now, that Vicky is the business head of our
I
business.
do, yes, I do the business. He does the art.
Right. And
So, and then we kind of meet in the middle with sometimes with pricing. Or I just go, no, I'm going to charge more.
yeah, well, generally she says something and I say, I shouldn't be involved in this.
Yes.
Because I've given,
No.
I give stuff away though. I mean, it's not that I don't know
yes,
how to
that's
price
true.
things. It's just that I tend to want people to have it, you know?
Yes, and I go,
So-
no, we need to buy new tires.
Yeah.
Someone asked, some tip to manage the lights and the composition without references?
That is a thing you have to gain through some experience of drawing different shapes under different light. So if I mean, lighting lighting is not random. It's mathematical, right? So if you look at, like, say, if you don't have reference for a shape, then you can make a shape that's similar, or even like for this, you can even hold your hand in a shape that's similar and put it under a light and then extrapolate from that what you're doing. Or you can make this out of a kneaded eraser, you know. I started sculpting with Sculpey, you know, different things, and then, you know, putting them under light. And I have a lot of different shapes of things around that. If I need specific light reference, I'll just grab something that is close, or even like halfway there, and light it, and then extrapolate from that. And then you can also just remember, you know, that light comes in at whatever angle it's coming in at. And in your mind, you just project it, you know, you do that same thing you do digitally. You project the light on the form, you know. Like this is all very, like right now, this is all very on one dimension. It's all flat.
Right.
So if light were coming in from this side, then it would be strange because this would be dark here. You would want part of this to be light, but the thing is that if this is right on top of each other, this is going to cast a shadow on that.
Right.
There are things that, you know, you can like, that's why a lot of times I'll do like vague lighting, and I feel like that's why a lot of times these guys, these older painters would do like really super, so you can find one. They would do sort of a, I call it like,
Were they up?
They might have been up. I call it like English landscape and an overcast day.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's
English landscape on another.
yeah,
Yes.
it's kind of like this. Like, okay, it's like ambient light. There's shadows where, you know, you would probably think to put them, but and a little bit of directional light in some of this, but it's very vague. It's not very hard light, so they can get away with a lot.
Yes.
You know.
Someone's asking about 2mm Tombow LEDs.
Oh, these?
I don't know.
I don't
LEDs.
know. I haven't ever used just the
2mm.
2mm Tombow LEDs. I used Mitsubishi LEDs.
He uses Mitsubishi LEDs, and then but he likes Tombow Mono 100s,
Right.
which they don't make LEDs for.
I like. Well, I don't know if Tombow actually makes LEDs for lead pencils or not. I haven't used any.
Well,
So.
you'll have to find out.
But I did recently
And
just
tell
get,
us.
I got the what is it, these, the Staedtler Mars Lumograph Black, which are
I can't even read that.
yeah. So it's I got these recently because somebody online mentioned them. Can you see
Put
it?
it under the light. There you go.
They're Mars Lumograph, and they have a high carbon content, which means they're very matte. So, but they don't work very well on clayboard at all, but they work great on paper. So the difference being, I mean, if you do this, I'll show
Okay.
you. So this is just a 6B Tombow Mono, right? 100,
Right.
and this is an 8B Mars, and this feels more like I'm using a colored pencil, like a black Prismacolor.
Like it's got wax in it or
But you
something.
can see that this is an 8B,
Right.
and it's going to naturally be darker if it's. But you can tell that it's not just darker; it's blacker. You know, I know that sounds weird. The difference.
Yeah, Barbara said she recommended them. How are you liking them?
I like them a lot, actually. I think I'll probably use them for regular like paper drawings because that's where they seem to shine the most. Not physically shine, but where they tend to operate the best.
Snap King asked if you prefer one pencil extender over the other. Like the aluminum ones, right?
Well, I like the screw. I don't have any of them out right now, but and I like these too a lot. Which I've worn off the. I think these are Staedtler. But what I like about these is
no, materials do not make a huge difference.
nah. I mean, you know,
You can do it with an IKEA pencil and number 2 pencil. Oh, your paint. That's it. Your plane drawing is done with a number 2 pencil.
Oh yeah, that was
That's right.
yeah. I used the number 2 that I found. So what I like about these is, you know, they're like telescoping or whatever you call it, and but if you push it in hard, it stays really tight, and they come with an eraser in this end.
Yeah.
But
You have lots of different pencil
I have a lot of
extenders.
different kinds. I think this is Staedtler though.
But you like those aluminum ones.
I
with
do
that
like the aluminum
screw.
ones. I just don't have any out right now.
That we have. They're all in your. I actually have a little thing with pencil extenders in it.
I must have like consolidated them and put them somewhere.
They're over there. They're in the drawer.
All right, well.
But that's all right. You know what? It's 9:55.
Yeah.
Where's the time gone?
People ask good questions.
AlanWilliamsStudio.com is the website, and you can look at the pieces there, but when you try to order, you just have to email me because
So-
it's down. Oh, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say that this the Mars Lumograph that we were talking about, it was good advice, by the way,
Barbara.
And I guess these are only a year old.
She said she thinks they have clay or oil or something in them.
Well, it said when I went on the thing that they have a high carbon content, so there's more charcoal. These are more like a cross between graphite and charcoal, and I think if you finesse them, they'll work just fine with regular graphite, which is the perfect world, because they are also very matte, so it reduces the shine. And when you're working on textured paper, the shine is what gets in the way. When you're working on clayboard, the shine is actually I like it, but on paper, it's sort of sometimes it can be distracting. But it works really well with other graphite. It plays well with others, so that's a good thing.
Our YouTube channel is Alan Williams Studio, and these eventually go up on YouTube. But you can watch this if you came in late. You can watch it for the next 24 hours on Instagram because I put it up under stories.
And if you have questions, you can still message us or email us or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. I try to get to all of them, although some people are asking the same questions if they just listen or
we have FAQ that we'll
facts.
point them at.
FAQ frequently asked questions on the website, and our Patreon is patreon.com/Alan Williams, or you can email me directly, victorialtw@gmail.com.
But yeah, so it's always a great day when I find a new pencil.
Yeah, Barbara said she told her partner that she can't be laughed at because you collect.
No, I do. What people were asking earlier, if tools matter, they don't matter unless they matter to you.
Yeah, that's his hobby.
Yeah, it's a hobby. I have a hobby of collecting tools. And don't ever get the idea that you have to, you can go out and spend $15 and have good paper and pencils probably, or even less.
Right,
I don't know.
Absolutely.
But and you work with that, and it's like I point people. I used to play racquetball, and there was a phrase that went around that said that they said a professional racquetball player can beat an amateur with a shoe. And it's true. A professional racquetball player, but they don't play other professionals with shoes. By the way,
no.
But there was a guy that would go around and he would play your average racquetball player. He would play him with.
The
he would
shoe?
use an iron. He would use an iron and beat them with an iron.
Hello, Argentina.
But he wouldn't That's not how he performed. That's how he played. That's how he practiced.
Right.
And there is a big difference, I think, at a certain point. If you see a difference and you respond to it, then you go with the tool that you like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, we're going to be at Dragon Con. Yes, someone said thank you and can't wait to meet us at Dragon Con, which is in Atlanta.
Yes.
Over Labor Day.
Yep, we'll be there.
Yes.
So, but.
Yeah, and I will update where we're going to be, because that's the next place we'll be, actually. Well, no, you'll be at your solo show in August 11th is when it opens.
At Copro in Santa Monica.
Yes, and then there'll be Dragon Con, which will be like 2 or 3 weeks later in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And then ElexCon in October. And that should be it for the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then here locally.
But, I'll still be online. We'll still do this. So even if you don't meet us up...
we have 20 seconds remaining.
Oh, all right.
All right, it's time to go.
All right.
And we will talk to you guys next week. Grab us online or talk to us online. All right? Yep. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, we're done.
You're done? I need a nap.
Oh, wait.